Hello and welcome to episode 244 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Of course, I am your host, Rick Doherty. On the show today, I'm joined by my good friend Gillian, who also joined me for my return visit to Walt Disney World last week. My annual pass was about to expire, and I wanted to get a little more value out of that pass. We're going to be talking about some of the new things I got to experience while I was there, and one thing I got to experience for the last time before it presumably gets an upgrade. Before we get started, I need more subscribers. I've been resting too much on the success that we have had in the first 4.5 years. Please make sure that you are subscribed to the Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty YouTube channel. When you are subscribed, go back and watch some videos. Drop likes and positive comments on as many of those videos as possible. When Gillian is on the show, we get a lot of new listeners. Please make sure you are subscribed. I want to do some big things with this channel, and I'm getting ready to start another channel. I need your help. Let's get things started on today's conversation. Thanks for being here, Gillian.
Thank you for having me.
And more importantly than joining me on the podcast, thank you so much for joining me for my return to Walt Disney World last week.
Return and last trip for a while, yes.
Well, so I'm actually going to tell a little bit of a story. So in 2015, a decade ago, actually right about now when this episode is airing, I think it might even have been October the 2nd. I'm not sure. It was close, though. It was the first week of October in 2015, and I moved from Pennsylvania to Arizona. And on the way, because my mother lived in Florida, I thought I would stop down in Florida, see my mother. We would go to Walt Disney World for 2 days, and then I would finish the drive to Arizona. And I remember the last day that we were there. It was just 2 days, so it wasn't a huge trip. But that second day, we were leaving and walking down Main Street, USA, and I remember turning and saying, I just want to look down Main Street, USA, because I'm moving. I don't know if I'm ever going to do this again. So 3 years later, we went on vacation, and then 6 months after that, we moved to Florida. So I'm not willing to say it's going to be a super long time before I'm back, but I do know that my annual pass has now expired, and get one last use out of it, and of course, see you, see my friend Danielle, see some other people, and really enjoy the Florida experience one more time. And one of the reasons that I was happy with the timing was because this is when I used to go for vacation, or at least around when I used to go for vacation, because school has just restarted, and usually it's starting to get a little bit cooler. So it's less crowded, and the parks aren't as hot. Well, I tell you what, that was a big old L. That was a loss this time, because I think the parks were pretty crowded when we were there. Not as crowded as, maybe a holiday weekend or the holiday season, but more crowded than they've been in the summers. It was crowded.
I have to say, I can't tell a difference anymore. Like, it's honestly, to me, even with my, bi-monthly, once, twice a month trips up there, the only difference I see is from when I was a kid to now, because to now, I can't tell a difference. It's the same amount of crowded. It's the same amount of crowded for me every single time I go there.
There is no off season anymore. I know people say it a lot, but it is definitely packed. But I tell you what, the major thing I noticed was it was hot. And very hot. It used to be if at the end of September you went to Walt Disney World, at night you would want a sweatshirt, and we did not want sweatshirts.
No, we did not need that at all. No layers.
So that was definitely something that I think slowed us down a little bit. But even so, we got to do everything we really wanted, considering Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is down for a refurbishment. But we got to see a lot of things. One of them that you haven't done in a really, really long time. You don't like to do this attraction, but you did it once. I did it twice because apparently they are going to be updating this attraction. I'm not sure exactly when, but they talked about it at Destination D23, and that is Carousel of Progress. So, because they are changing it, we were able to talk you into, I don't know if you want to say riding it or watching it for a little bit. So, what do you think about this attraction changing in the near future?
I hope it changes for the better because I don't really care for it as it is right now. I equate it more to a show than a ride. Yes, yes, we all know the thing turns around on a carousel of progress, but I it's always a show to me, and for the most part, I skip the shows. I want to get the most of my time eating or going on rides. So it's just not something that's ever been very interested to me or my family. Honestly, I remember since I was a kid, we never really went on that ride, and I'm happy for any changes or updates that improves the women's station on that ride because that's a main concern for me is the women's place and all of the and every woman on that show. I'm all for changing their station in life.
That is definitely going to be a difficult one for them to update because nothing is so offensive if you keep it the way it is right now. It's
Yeah.
just outdated.
Mm-hmm.
But if you update it, now all of a sudden you can't keep any of those old jokes.
Nope. Nope. Not a one, and I'm all for it. Get rid of them.
Maybe the I got paint on my rump is room. Like that one maybe can stay. But a
Yeah.
lot of the things about the women in there is definitely outdated. I am interested to see because they're saying they're going to incorporate Walt and
Ah.
the Walt Disney animatronic that we got as its own show over in Disneyland, they're going to put in Carousel of Progress. And what I don't want to happen is Walt being like the invisible narrator, like they don't know he's in the room. I think that would be weird. I don't know exactly how they're going to do this. If he just talks at the end of that last segment, or if he talks at the beginning when you're just staring at like a coin that says Carousel of Progress, okay, maybe that would be interesting. But I'm worried that like he's gonna be the one telling the jokes and it's gonna just get out of hand. Like he's gonna be the one to go, oh, she got paint all over her rump this room. Like
I don't think that they would use him that way. I think it probably would best serve if he opens and closes it. Like you said, the curtain room with the coin. Instead, we open on him and the animatronic talking to us and giving us a good intro about, times are changing. And then probably again spin it back around to him at the end and do a nice finish too.
and that I think would be the perfect way to use him. I would also like to see them maybe branch out on the timelines a little bit and maybe have it be because nobody remembers the turn of the 20th century anymore.
Yeah, they're all gone.
So maybe start it in the 40s and then go from the 40s to the late 60s and the moon landing and stuff like that, and then move it on into the 80s and 90s, and then finish it up with today. And you just have to make sure that you're constantly doing little updates to the today version so it never gets so old that they're talking about laser discs and
I would even say start at the 50s or 60s, to be honest. I mean, how long's the ride going to be? But yeah, I mean, definitely start a little later in the century.
absolutely. So we're in agreement there.
Yeah.
The one area where we're not in agreement is
Uh-oh.
the new Little Mermaid show.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to talk about this because I was excited to see it. In my personal opinion, the old one had just gotten like it had 90s effects and it had gotten old. And if they were going to keep it, they had to do something. And they did something. Now, you didn't quite like it as much because it does have that patented Bob Iger, let's save a little bit of money flavor to it.
Yeah. Guess you could call it that.
But why don't you say what you liked more about the old version?
Well, honestly, I might be Mandela affecting myself because I've only seen the show one time, maybe twice, but I know for sure I've only seen the show once in 2017, and I think that's the one and only time I saw it, and that's because my girlfriend at the time was her favorite show, and I was going to Disney with her for like the first time, and she wanted to see it. I am remembering in my mind's eye the show being more like the Finding Nemo show in Disney's Animal Kingdom. That's what I'm seeing in my head. I'm seeing a lot more puppets, a lot more moving pieces, a bigger set, I guess you want to call it. But again, I could be completely misremembering this. Um, at least during the Under the Sea song. I'm remembering a lot bigger show. And I like the lasers. I thought the lasers were cool. I mean I guess they're outdated and didn't look as good now, but again, I haven't seen it, since 2017. But that's how I remembered seeing the show the one time, and it just seemed that screen in front of it. I know that screen, the new screen, serve the purpose to put projections on it and stuff like that, and that's a cool effect. But it really did just seem like they cut down the scale of how, I don't know, grand it was. Again, I'm sure plenty of your listeners will tell me if I'm wrong. That's just how I'm remembering it. So it just seems like they made it smaller and more compact. And I don't know, it just didn't seem as big to me.
Wait a minute, you're saying that Disney people might jump to correct a mistake? No. Okay, so a couple things with what you said there, because I'm going to agree with you to a certain extent. There was a lot of acting opposite videos. So if you
Yeah.
ever saw the old version, or even if you haven't, it was basically the Little Mermaid was a live character. I think Eric was always a live character,
Yeah.
but then most of the other characters were puppets. Now, in this one, about half of the other characters are puppets and half of the other characters are video. This is, like I said, another way where Bob Iger loves to save a little bit of money here and there. Um, where can we have a video instead of hiring an actual actor to do it? I think you were probably right on the Under the Sea comment, because I think they were using the projections and they were using the screen and videos to add things here and there instead of having quite as many puppets as they did on the original version. And I think that was a paring down, that was a cost cutting measure. I just liked the way that they did use the screen for a lot of those shows. And I had felt that the old one just was looking very, very 90s. And usually that's not a criticism from me, somebody who's seen Pearl Jam 25 times, but um, it was like your elementary school pictures, like that, like laser, that was in the
Yeah.
background of like 80s and 90s elementary school pictures.
Yeah.
And I thought this was good, but here's the thing, if they're gonna update it, even if I don't like the update, at least it's not the last 5 years where nothing was there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, that show was empty for a long, long time, to the point that everybody just assumed it was never returning. And they brought it back and they gave it an update. So that to me says that the Little Mermaid show is probably going to stay for a few years. And we were actually there for one of the last days of Star Wars Launch Bay and the animation courtyard area where they have the meet and greets with some of the second tier characters. Mickey and Minnie aren't there. Mickey and Minnie are over sort of by Baseline Tap House, but they had Chip and Dale, they had Donald and Daisy, Pluto, Goofy, some of those like second tier members of the Fab Four, the Fab Five. And this is like the one thing that Disney has announced that they're going to be demolishing that didn't in its last couple of days have like meetups and lines going out to the parking lot, and you know they were
Lines to what? Where would there be lines going to? That's like, there's nothing in there but a store.
the Darth Vader meet and greet. I mean,
Yeah, but that can be moved.
it can be, but they haven't announced it's going to be. So I was a little
Oh.
surprised. I thought we might see listen, we've seen more bizarre than that getting like a 2 hour wait. Now I did notice that the times were a little higher than they used to be. Like I think it was like 35 to 45 to meet Chewie, and I think it was 45 to meet Darth Vader, but the characters themselves, Donald and Daisy and Chip and Dale, those were like your normal 5 minutes. I actually got in line and met Chip and Dale, and you got one of the best pictures of all time when I told Chip that I was sorry, but I was there more to see Dale, and you took a picture of Chip looking utterly defeated, standing next to the photographer as I got my picture taken with Dale. So that was really funny. I'll have to post that again on all the socials. That area has been so underutilized for so long.
Well, that's why everyone thought that Monsters Inc. should go there. Everyone thought, the Monsters Land. I was begging and hoping to God that it would have, but it didn't pan out.
So we're going to get a new animation style experience. We haven't really gotten a lot of details on it, but here's the deal. If you're going to do something with it, good, because that was needed. After like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, that was a dead zone almost every day.
Yep.
And that park needs more things. It just needs more stuff because it has a bunch of e-ticket rides and then shows that close at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about another show that does not close at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. At least I don't think so. It looks like it goes pretty late. And that is the brand new Villain show. This was the biggest thing that I wanted to see new when I arrived for this Walt Disney World trip. And I'm going to tell you, it did not disappoint. But get there, get your spot. I would say try to make sure you're there at least 20 minutes before the showing, 30 minutes if it's really important that you make that showing in particular.
Yeah, we had a bit of a problem getting to our first showing, so we had to wait. But yeah, it was pretty busy, so it was in demand. So
I loved how they did this. This is going to be the no spoilers premise here, and that is that the magic mirror can now judge all of the villains and all of the villains feel that they are treated unfairly. And they want the magic mirror to decide who is treated the most unfairly of them all.
Who is the most misunderstood?
Correct, yes. And I feel this is a show that I hope when they build Villains Land, this goes over to Villains Land. And B, I hope they continuously update it.
Yes.
Because this feels like you could rotate the villains, you could rotate which villain, quote unquote, wins.
Exactly.
And we got to see Cruella de Vil, Captain Hook, and Maleficent. We won't say who won, but we got to see the three of those sort of plead their case, do a little dance, do a little show. There was a really cute effect during the Captain Hook version that I thought was really creative. Cruella just had that like Hot Topic vibe to her, that very cool, very, pop punk at least, maybe not punk rock, but and Maleficent is just always, she's just always cool. Yeah, you can't beat that. So I thought the show did a really good job of focusing on three of the villains, giving you a little spattering here and there of other villains. Like you got to see Ratcliffe from Pocahontas, even though he wasn't a big part of the show.
Yeah, very briefly.
So they had this nod to like every villain.
Yeah, pretty much.
Very, very well done. The songs were fun. The experience was fun. It is in a pitch black theater, so you get to feel like some cool air. It's air conditioned. What was there before was Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy. I don't think you ever saw that, did you, Gillian?
No, I missed it. I assumed it would have been there for a while, so it wasn't a big priority for me to see.
I am going to say you didn't really miss much.
That's what I heard.
It was a cool Lightning McQueen animatronic, but having 3 live characters in a show is much more impressive than having a couple animatronics and a couple characters on a screen. Now, kids love themselves some Lightning McQueen, but middle-aged wine moms love themselves some Disney villains, so you're probably making a little more money with this show. It definitely is more crowded. The seats were more comfortable. They didn't just put a stage where Lightning McQueen was and call it a
like
day.
An overlay.
They completely rebuilt the theater, and I would say that it was really impressive. I was excited to see it. It was something on my list that was a high priority, and it still exceeded my expectations. So I'm going to give that a good rating in my book.
Oh, I really enjoyed it. If anyone had seen the concept art when it was originally, announced, it looked exactly like the concept art. So I was pleased with that because I was looking forward to seeing. And just like I was going to ask you, do they always do those same 3 villains or do they swap it out? Because that's kind of the feeling that I got. But they could so easily do that. I feel like they could easily swap it out for different villains, instead of just those 3, which I think is a good idea going forward.
From what I understand.
Yeah.
Right now they do those 3.
Yeah, but you see what I mean? It's, you said, it seems like very easily interchangeable. They could have 3 completely different villains do an act 2. It just seems very interchangeable, user friendly, or what have you.
Absolutely, and I think that's the best part of it because all of those villains are so iconic. You can throw in Hades, you can throw in Gaston, you can throw in, like you said, Ratcliffe, you can throw in any of these and they're so iconic. Those might be three of the more iconic ones, but there's a lot more out there. And I like Facilier. He's my guy. He
Yeah.
just hates tourists. Like, I get that. And then the other big thing that I wanted to see was over at Magic Kingdom, the brand new nighttime parade. You did not get to see this with me because you had to go back to work.
Boo.
And you dropped me off at Magic Kingdom. I'm not going to say whether or not it's one of the ways that they like you to drop somebody off when they are going to Magic Kingdom, or if we sort of skirted some of the rules, but I was
No, never.
I I had a limited amount of time and I wanted to see this parade. So I got into the park about 10 minutes before the parade started. The parade actually starts on Main Street. It doesn't end on Main Street like Festival of Fantasy. So I was in at like 10 of 8.
And I had seen the entire parade by 8:15.
I like this parade. I like the idea of a nighttime parade. I thought the Main Street Electrical Parade was brilliant. If they ever bring it back again to Walt Disney World, I'll be there in a second. I would even consider going when they bring it back at Disneyland. The only thing that I didn't necessarily love about the new nighttime parade, this feels kind of like the festival of fantasization of the nighttime parade. I think something more like Main Street Electrical Parade was more to my liking. There was a lot more of a generic aspect to it. There were characters that weren't necessarily from movies, but this felt like, hey, here's Elsa, here's Miguel from Coco, here are these characters. We don't talk about Bruno, but we put him on every parade float. So the only thing that I didn't necessarily like about the parade was it felt like it was just a nighttime version of Festival of Fantasy. However, like with the villain show, like with the Little Mermaid show, if we're getting new entertainment, especially if it's not replacing something, if we are getting something brand new or it's replacing something like Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy that wasn't a big deal to basically anybody, I think that's important because we need to continue to get new things into this park and to revitalize the parks with new experiences. So even if it wasn't my favorite new experience, it was fun. I enjoyed it. The kids loved seeing their favorite characters, probably by that point for the 7th time that day, but you never get sick of seeing Elsa when you're 10. So I think that was probably a good addition. And now they can have a day like the day I was there. At 8 o'clock, they ran the parade. At 10 o'clock, they ran the parade. And then at 9 o'clock, they did the Happily Ever After fireworks show. So they were keeping people out of the back of the park for a good portion of the evening, which gave people who just wanted to ride rides the chance to ride those rides. And that's important as well. It was one of the things that was sorely missing when we didn't have a nighttime parade, was that all of those people were crowded in the back in Fantasyland, in Adventureland, trying to ride rides. So, Gillian, first of all, thank you so much for being a part of the show, but also thank you for being a part of my vacation, because one of the things that I realized when I was back at Walt Disney World, the theme parks are great, but the real thing that I have enjoyed so much for the past few years is spending time with my friends like you at the theme parks more than any ride any festival food. Well, maybe not any festival food. Some festival food's really, really good. But like the average festival food anyway, it is spending time with people. That's the real treat about these parks.
Oh, thank you very much. And I had to be there because it is kind of an end of an era. So I had to be there with my Twitter bestie, my real life bestie. I had to be there. Just to say that we were there. We did this, and we know you're coming back, but it might be a little while, but we still have our friendship outside of the park, and that's the park brought us together, but it doesn't keep us together.
And the next thing is to get Gillian to see snow.
That and Hershey's.
Get her to Hershey Park and get her to see some snow. If we can accomplish those two things, I think that we have done a lot. Yeah, Gillian, thank you so much. It was great.
Thank you.
This has been episode 244 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. As always, I will be back next Thursday with another brand new episode of the show. After all of the drama with the Walt Disney Company that took place over my vacation, I was particularly impressed with the way former Disney chairman and CEO Michael Eisner made his voice heard during an important time for the company. In honor of him going out on a limb to protect free speech, I'm going to look back at another time where Michael Eisner showed his integrity when it would have been easy for him to cave to the worst types of people. I'll also go over a few other aspects of my trip. All of that will be next week on Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Until then, have a great week.